Hello, my name is Mark and I thank you so much for coming by today. If you're an artist like me, then you probably have more art supplies than a small town art supply store. And for me, there's nothing more satisfying than coming home and finding new supplies delivered right to my front door. And who doesn't love wandering the aisles of an art store to check out all the amazing products they have? But what happens to all those exciting and usually expensive art supplies when they're not so new anymore? I mean, tubes of paint can harden over time, markers can dry out, and the wax in colored pencils can oxidize. My friend Lana from LanaGoesArt recently posted an interesting experience on her Instagram channel about this very thing. She found that over time, her expensive watercolor paper had gone bad. In the post, she showed how the fibers in her Arches hot press watercolor paper began to separate. It appeared that the gelatinous coating on the paper, known as sizing, was breaking down. The paper was about 3 or 4 years old, and what looked like granulation of the paint was actually the paper fibers. I'll post a link down below to Lana's channel where you can check this out along with all her wonderful work. For me, every couple of years, I go through my supplies and take inventory. I actually open up every box, bin, drawer, and cabinet, and I write down what I have, the condition it's in, and if I use it. If I use something regularly, it stays out in my studio where I can get to it easily. If it's something I still use but not very often, well then it goes back into storage where I had it. And if it's something that I haven't touched in a long time, maybe a couple of years, I consider letting it go. In other words, I purge my art supplies. Now I know, a lot of people might squirm at the idea of letting go of their precious art supplies. I mean, you never know when you'll need that masking fluid that's been sitting in a box for 6 years, or those neon fabric markers that you got back when you were in high school. It's hard letting go of things that we once cherished, especially when we put so much time, energy, and money in acquiring them in the first place. But there are reasons why purging our old art supplies is actually very healthy and important. A lot of people already do this with clothing, furniture, and old electronics or collectibles around the house. I'm a big fan of yard sales, both going to them and especially having them. Putting out old, unwanted things for people to buy is not only lucrative, but it also frees up space. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process right now of gathering all the old devices around our house to recycle. Old phones and iPods, Kindles and headphones that were all buried in junk drawers years ago. Luckily, I can bring these devices to retail stores like Target, Staples, and the Apple Store, who will recycle them responsibly and usually at no cost. So, just how is purging our art supplies a good thing? And what do we do with them? Well, let's talk about this and the business of art supplies right after this coffee break. So before getting into purging our art supplies, we should first discuss the business of art supplies. Now, most of us never think of this side of buying art supplies because we find the products we want, we pay for them, and then we move on. Pencils and sketchbooks don't usually stand out as being a big deal, right? Well, the truth is that the business of art supplies is big business. In fact, it's huge business. A lot of artists joke about their art supply addiction and love to show off their latest haul video on social media. It's easy for an artist to walk into an art supply store and drop anywhere from $20 to $200 on new supplies. But while buying a sketchbook, some colored pencils, or a tube of paint may seem innocuous, the companies that produce and distribute art supplies rely on artists to spend their money. They're fully aware of which products we will consume quickly and which products we'll keep on our shelves for years. They also know that artists can't resist new products, like exotic new colors of paint, a new style of pencil, or even new trends that surface on social media, like drawing on sneakers, which was a big thing a few years ago. Here's the thing. All these art supplies we purchase are part of feeding the global art supply market. From the United States to England, Germany to China, the art supply market is both massive and it's continually growing. How much do you think people spent on art supplies just last year? Would you say $100 million? Maybe $500 million? How about $13.6 billion? Yes, billion. And that was just in 2023. It's projected that within the next 5 to 10 years, that figure may exceed to a staggering $20 billion. And again, the business of art supplies is huge business. What drives this market is a revolving cycle of creative resurgence by people interested in starting a pursuit in creative outlets, maintaining their pursuit in creative outlets, and reviving an old interest in creative outlets. And with all these pursuits, art supplies are needed for each of them, from sketchbooks and pens to pencils and markers, canvases and paint and brushes. These are the most commonly repurchased items with the highest rate of consumption. In other words, these are the items that artists buy over and over, whether they need them or not. And as artists develop their skills, the desire for better quality and more expensive art supplies increases. When I was young, there was no social media. To share our art with the world, we usually had to enter a competition or have an exhibition. And back then, our work was judged and needed to qualify to be part of a show. Today, artists post every doodle online to share with hundreds and even thousands of people, all who might be inspired to pursue their own creative outlets more aggressively and share their work online as well. Traditional artists who post their work online may spend up to 5 times more money on art supplies than artists who don't post their work online, and even more than digital artists who usually make large purchases to upgrade their equipment or buy new software and accessories. For content creators like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, they may spend hundreds of dollars on products just to review them and promote them on their channel, knowing they'll get that money back from ad revenues, affiliate links on Amazon, or from direct compensation from the manufacturers. And here's the key. By promoting products online through reviews and hauls, content creators are creating a demand for art supplies where there was no demand before. Another friend I follow is MadeByDawn, whose YouTube channel is growing steadily. She recently posted a video titled "Why I Don't Do Recommendation Videos," explaining her unique perspective on how artists often buy art supplies based on the opinions and recommendations of influencers, only to be disappointed in their purchases later. I'll post a link to this video in the description below, as well as a link to her wonderful, whimsical work. For me, I only review products I buy myself and actually use on a regular basis. A lot of influencers on social media will often showcase a product that they never use again. A lot of companies will offer their products to influencers for free in exchange for reviews. In turn, the influencers often present positive reviews of these products to ensure the companies will continue to send more products to them. This creates a demand for art supplies, once again, that didn't exist before. The exchange is a win-win for both the company and the influencer, and the trade-off can be free products, thousands of views, or actual compensation. An influencer like Drawing with Waffles, who has garnered over 2.79 million subscribers within just a few hundred videos, operates a channel almost exclusively pitching products in a high-intensity pop format. Drawing with Waffles earns $500,000 a year just from YouTube videos, which doesn't include the affiliate links, the product endorsements, or promotional compensation. Again, $500,000 in YouTube videos about art supplies. So, repeating it, art supplies are a huge business. So, when I was young, I had to travel to the nearest art supply store to get my new supplies. That meant a whole day event of going to the city on a train, and if the store didn't have what I came in for, I was out of luck. But today, with online shopping, art stores all over the world are open 24 hours and can usually ship within just a few days. The downside is that the market is oversaturated with art supplies, and the bulk of them are not very good. They're made cheaply for private label companies that all buy their materials from the same suppliers and slap different packaging on them to sell under different names. On Amazon, you'll see companies like Artistro, Nella Blue, GenCrafts, Art Echo, Chromatech, and Mozart all selling art supplies at a price that's vastly lower than the major brands. Some companies like Arteza or Meaden are more aggressive in their marketing and target small content creators to offer that free products in exchange for reviews strategy. It's incredibly enticing for a young content creator to get a free set of 120 colored pencils in exchange for their valuable time in creating a video to review them. Sadly, while the company gets actual revenue, money from these reviews, the content creator gets a bunch of colored pencils. I got caught up in this when I first started my YouTube channel, and I was thrilled that somebody would want me to review their products and I would get free stuff. But once I realized that the trade-off was far from balanced, I began to present my rates, my fees for doing review videos. The companies quickly backpedaled and said, "Oh, we can't pay you in money, we can only pay you in products." Well, my attitude was, colored pencils don't pay my bills. Now, I don't mean to sound cynical about the business of art supplies, but knowing that $13 billion a year is on the line, it's a very serious business to these companies. One of my favorite success stories is a company called Zentangle. This was a pattern drawing technique developed and branded in the early 2000s by Rick Roberts and Maria Thomas. You can Google their story, which is really interesting, but what it comes down to is that this team developed a way of drawing which combined the concept of meditation, the Zen in Zentangle, and the techniques of repetitive pattern drawing. It didn't take long before the idea became a massive sensation and attracted people from all walks of life. Zentangle went from being a fun hobby for casual artists to being one of the most successful and popular do-it-yourself art fads to come around in years. They developed coloring book-style publications, a whole range of Zentangle products and packages, and certification programs to train instructors to go out and inspire the masses to join in the Zentangle craze. Today, Zentangle has over 3,000 certified instructors in over 40 countries, with an online presence, a blog, local events, their own glossary of terms, and a wide range of products from pens, pads, packages, and more. This is a great example of how creative entrepreneurs continue to tap into that global art supply market. Like any established company, art suppliers continued to produce products to engage their existing consumer base while attracting a new generation of upcoming artists. One thing that spiked artists to spend more money than ever on art supplies was the pandemic in 2020. Being in lockdown meant that people were exhausting their art supplies faster than normal, while in contrast, replenishing them was even more difficult than ever due to the supply chain issues. Once the world began coming back to normal, people began purchasing art supplies faster than they had in prior years, especially for younger artists and children. Around this time as well, people with backgrounds in teaching art began to retool their careers and add a certification in art therapy to be able to not only teach art, but to help others dealing with mental health issues through creative expression therapy, thus creating a new avenue for demand for art supplies. Unfortunately, the cost of art supplies is at an all-time high. Between inflation, sourcing materials to create the supplies, and more rigid environmental and safety regulations, the impact on prices has directly affected consumers. My concern is that these rising prices may push small companies right out of the market while the big companies continue to dominate. These big companies can provide discounts to schools, charities, and corporations, turning volume sales into huge profits and securing consumer loyalty through brand exposure. And so that's where we come back to purging our art supplies. There are several benefits to purging our art supplies. Number one, to help other people. My town has a local food pantry that provides food for people in situations of food insecurity. The pantry relies on donations from people who have an excess of food they can afford to donate. These donations then allow families to enjoy the same food as the people who donated them. And in turn, the benefit for the people who donated is knowing that they're helping others in need. And this is a great example of how purging our art supplies can not only be a benefit for us, but for other people. By donating our unused or gently used art supplies to someone who might benefit from them is a great way to pass on the gift of creativity. Whether giving them to a friend, a local school, or to a senior center, chances are that our old art supplies will go to good use. Number 2 is to make money. Another great way to purge art supplies is to actually put them up for sale. Whether we sell them at a yard sale or post them for sale online using Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, or eBay, our unused art supplies will be worth something to someone and may yield a high monetary value. How much they're worth, of course, depends on a few factors like the condition they're in, how old they are, what brand they are, and whether it's something that's hard to find or if people are interested in them. For example, I have a complete set of 72 Spectracolor pencils from the 1980s that predate modern Prismacolor pencils that are in a pristine condition. These pencils are arguably the best colored pencils that were ever made, and when they were on sale, I bought 2 sets. I used one set and kept the other one as a backup. Strangely enough, in 35 years, I've never used them, and I still have pencils from the first set as well. If I were to market these pencils correctly, I could get a very good price for them, maybe $200 to $400, all because they're incredibly good pencils and they're in like new condition. However, I'm not just ready to let go of these pencils yet. I plan on holding on to them for a long time. Number 3 is to reduce waste and clear space. One of the biggest problems for artists and their art supplies is where to store them all. You can only have so many drawers, bins, boxes, and closets full of art supplies. From easels and canvases to giant pads of paper and all those pens and pencils. I don't even want to talk about all the yarn, ribbon, and string that crafting people collect. Space can be very valuable and it can take up a lot of time to organize. Having enough room to move around in our workspace and not feel cluttered and closed in is just as important. By going through our art supplies and taking that inventory, we can resolve the clutter and either reorganize or reduce waste altogether. And by reducing waste, we're able to clear the space up that can open up room to breathe, focus more, and be more productive. Which then of course goes into number 4, to make room for new art supplies. Take a look in your closet and see what's hanging on the bar in there. Jackets, shirts, tops, dresses, pants, etc., etc. If we were to purge the items that we don't wear anymore in our closet, we'd find that there's a lot more room on that bar. And that room on the bar means more room for new jackets, shirts, tops, pants, dresses, etc. The same is true for art supplies. If we purge those bins and drawers that are all full of stuff we just don't use anymore, whether giving them away, throwing them away, or selling them off, we can open up those bins and drawers to fit all kinds of new art supplies to work with. And for me, that's what I consider an opportunity, a chance to expand my knowledge, to challenge my skills with new tools and supplies, and to allow my creative spirit to grow. And for me, that's really exciting. Also, an unexpected benefit is to number 5, motivate companies to develop new products. By purging our unused or old art supplies, we can remove them from blocking our developmental path as artists. Because we surround ourselves with products that we're comfortable with, or by hiding products away because we're uncomfortable with them, it limits what the resources we have access to that are needed for us to grow. When we clear out the old supplies we've clung to for years, we open that space to bring in new supplies to explore and immerse in. But what this does for the global art supply market, especially the smaller independent manufacturers, is that it motivates companies to work harder to bring new, unique supplies to the market. It's a lot like a street performer who performs for dozens of people in a day. Most people just walk by and casually glance at the performer doing their show. However, some people will stop and curiously look on to see what the show is all about. Of the people that stop and watch, there are people who will stop, watch, and put money in the performer's tip cup. And of the people who put money into the tip cup, there are a few who will stay and continue to watch, offering more money to support the performer. Now, the street performer knows exactly who these people are, and they actually perform specifically to them because, well, the performer knows they have money to spend and they're willing to do their best to earn it. While this is a loose comparison, the art supply companies work in the same fashion. They know there are consumers out there with money to spend. so they create products that they think will make people want to buy them. In other words, they try their best to earn our money, but also our brand loyalty. It's a symbiotic relationship where the benefits work for both parties. By purging our art supplies, it also benefits the retail sellers because we're willing to shop for new products at their stores. In a world where brick-and-mortar retail stores have given way to online behemoths, like I said earlier, it's always great to be able to walk the aisles of a retail store to see what wondrous new art supplies they carry. One thing I wonder is how purging our art supplies might impact the environment as well. It seems to me that recycling them, by donating them, giving them to someone who can use them, or even selling them at a discount so another artist can afford them, this would keep many art supplies from ending up in the trash, landfills, or poured down the sink, which could cause serious effects to the local environment or wildlife. Anyhow, there are so many more benefits to purging our old or unwanted art supplies. So if you have any ideas you'd like to share, please post them down in the comments below because I'd really love to hear how you might approach this topic with your own art supplies. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, and I'd love to bring you more conversations like this in the future. I hope you're doing great and getting ready for the next change in the season. Thank you again for coming by. Stay well, keep indulging your creative spirit, and as always, God bless.